The Radical. Fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Wednesday, August 2nd. God, summer's just passing by like that, like this. Jonathan, thank you. Thanks for the support. Jonathan gets us started on the Super Chat. Yes, remember, we've got these targets and goals to been missing them lately. Let's try to get back on track and achieve our fundraising goals so that we can keep the show going. All right. What do we? Yes, we've got a lot to talk about on the news. We will be talking about that. I want to give you a quick heads up. Show tonight will be at 8 p.m. East Coast time. 8 p.m. East Coast time. It will be on private equity. I'll also be doing reviews. I think I have 2 songs and Puss in Boots, the movie. So I'll be doing reviews of those 3. But the main topic of the show will be private equity, the tax on private equity. I keep seeing this in the news, and then Remo had some questions that he sent me about private equity. We'll cover those as well. I'll just explain to you what private equity is, whether it's good, whether it's bad, how it works, why everybody hates it so much, and has always hated it so much, and is it about to face some problems? Is all good in the land of private equity? So we will talk about that at 8 p.m. tonight. On Thursday, 8 p.m. East Coast time, I'll be interviewing Augustina from the Ayn Rand Institute, and we will be talking about my favorite subject. I know it's your favorite subject, and that is immigration. So, to all of you who want to challenge me in immigration, who want to claim that I don't know what I'm talking about, or that Augustina doesn't know, or the Ayn Rand Institute is wrong on this, bring your questions. It's a great time to ask everything you ever wanted to know about immigration and were afraid to ask, or were, I don't know, maybe not afraid is the right term, but were not given the opportunity to ask. Bring it all in, the economic question, the cultural question, the election questions, the everything. Just yeah. That's Thursday, 8 p.m. East Coast time. We'll be talking about immigration, everything about immigration. What else do we want to talk about? Yeah, I mean, those are the 2 shows coming up. Of course, in between now and then, we will continue to talk about the news. Let me just a couple more announcements. Sorry. Those of you who haven't seen the Fox articles on Ayn Rand on foxnews.com in the lifestyle section, I think, but there have been 3 articles, pretty lengthy, pretty good. I mean, it's Fox, so they're not going to be perfect. Of course, they're going to say things that you don't agree with, so that's not the standard. It's getting her name out there. It's getting interest in her ideas out there. It's encouraging people to read the books. Please go to those articles. If you care about Ayn Rand, if you care about objectivism, if you care about spreading the word, go to those articles. Tweet them, Facebook them, link to them. I mean, basically comment on them. What we want to show Fox is there's real interest in this, so they write more. If it kind of peters out and nobody cares about this stuff, they're not going to do more, right? I mean, they're focused on advertising and stuff like that. They have to show views and clicks and likes and all of that stuff. So please use your influence, which you have in the world of social media, by liking and sharing and commenting and doing all the things that encourage publishers to publish more. So please do that. It's on foxnews.com. And then just a quick one. I'm posting right now a bunch of stuff on my of my old foreign policy talks, whether it's about Israel or whether it's about neoconservatives and other stuff, history of the Middle East, all of that stuff that I have done. If you haven't heard it and you're listening to the show, I encourage you to listen to it. I think you'll find it interesting and engaging and different, a different approach to foreign policy. But I'm doing this because of all the criticism I'm getting for my position in Ukraine. But that's fine. I just want to give people a kind of a history and what my positions really are. I've been called a neocon, for example. So please, again, like, share, do whatever. I'll also be on my channel, on the Yaron Brook Show channel, be posting my talk from Ocon on Ukraine versus Russia probably this weekend, sometime this weekend. So I'll probably premiere it. So please feel free to, again, share it, like it, do whatever you want to do in order to promote this material. Yeah, just engage on Twitter, on Facebook, everywhere you can. Engage and get these ideas out there and promote them, and let's change the world together. I can't do this by myself. I need your help, not just the financial help of the super chat, but I need, more importantly, your help in sharing content and liking it and just promoting it. We have this tool, social media and the internet, which we've never had before. We should be able to get this. Yeah, I call it Twitter. I like that little bird. I'm kind of upset at Elon Musk for taking my little bird and replacing it with an ugly X. But yes, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, because ultimately you can call it anything you want to, because you can do whatever you want, right? All right. It's going to be Twitter for what do you say when you retweet something? Is it a re-X something? I mean, how do you? It's always going to be Twitter, right? I don't care what Elon Musk tries to label it. Now, maybe he'll develop this into some other kind of app, and then it'll make sense to call it X. But as long as it does what it does right now, it's just always going to be Twitter. Don't repost it, retweet it. Yes, retweet. All right, quickly, it was just a verdict in the Pittsburgh synagogue shooting. The murderous bastard who went into a Jewish community center in Pittsburgh and shot it up and killed 11 people this is 2018, so this is, 5 years later. Justice takes a long time. It's so slow in this country. 5 years. Anyway, he has been sentenced to death. This is a good example of where the death sentence is appropriate. There's no question about guilt. This guy is a murderer. Yeah, hanging, shoot him, poison him, whatever it takes. Get this animal off the face of the earth. It's horrible. So that is of course good. I'm sure there's somebody out there with a conspiracy theory saying no, he didn't do it, or he's a woke leftist, when actually he was an anti-immigrant, new right type who hated immigrants and who was convinced that the Jews were promoting illegal immigration, funding illegal immigration, helping illegal immigrants to come in, and therefore they needed to be killed in order to stop immigration. Some crazy idea like that. So yes, I'm sure there's somebody out there that is claiming that that's not what really motivated him, but instead it's some leftist conspiracy. But we'll leave it at that. All right. You might have heard Fitch, one of the rating agencies, one of the 3 rating agencies in the United States, has downgraded United States government debt. It basically has downgraded it from AAA, which is the highest rating possible, to AA+, which is the second highest rating possible. And they did this because what they consider the physical deterioration over the next 3 years. So looking into the future, deficits exploding, no spending discipline, zero, even with the deal the Republicans cut with the Democrats, a repeat of the debt limit political standoff, the last minute resolutions, just the whole way in which this ridiculous American government deals with its fiscal responsibilities. And so they basically said, look, given the way the U.S. government is behaving, given the process that is now being instituted, the U.S. government just doesn't deserve to be as highly rated as as countries that have AAA, like Australia and I think Germany, and I don't see here. Instead, it's been downgraded to, New Zealand level, which is a AA+. Not a big downgrade, but symbolic more than anything else. I don't think it's going to affect much, although the stock market is down today and bond yields are up. And what you'd expect is, as your bond rating deteriorates, what the rating agency is saying is there's greater and greater risk of defaulting, of not paying back your debts. As the risk of default goes up, the interest that people are going to charge for buying your debt, for funding your debt, for loaning you money is going to go up, which means interest rate expenses and so on. Now, whether AAA to AA plus is going to make a big difference interest rates wise, I doubt it. I also doubt that people who buy American bonds, U.S. government bonds, really pay attention to rating agencies. I think generally sophisticated investors pay no attention to rating agencies, or almost no attention to rating agencies. So I think it's just we could do a whole show on just rating agencies at some point. But this is just a symbolic thing, an indication of the fact that, look, the U.S. government is irresponsible, and it's and we know that from the inflation numbers, we know that from the deficit numbers, we know that from the government spending numbers, and so this will impact those. But otherwise, it's not going to impact a lot. It's going to have some very little impact. The only entities that are restricted, that can only buy securities that are rated by one of the three rating agencies, are pension plans and insurance companies. That's why rating agencies really exist. It's to provide the rating for the insurance company but again, the difference between AAA and AA plus is not going to make much difference one way or the other. But it is just an indication of the fact that our physical state is absurd and ridiculous, that we can't even keep that rating. All right, Donald Trump has been indicted again. What a surprise! What a shock! Right, number 3. This one, on the one hand, is the most serious of all the indictments, because it is an indictment. He's being accused of trying to overturn an election, trying to work to overturn the results of an election. That is a very, very serious accusation in a democracy. Again, all the facts as stated are true, just like all his other indictments. We know he's guilty of every single one of them. You might not think it's that serious. You might not think it's worth indicting him on, but he deserves every single one of these indictments, every single one of them. I know some of you will couch it in politics. It's all about politics. No, Donald Trump, but no. And Jack Smith, who's doing the indicting, is not particularly partisan left. He's kind of a tough guy, a prosecutor who's, I don't think, particularly left. I don't think he's particularly right. It's just the fact that Donald Trump is guilty of this stuff, and my hatred of Donald Trump is palatable, and it's real. Now, I know you can call it trait derangement syndrome, but all Trump derangement syndrome does is it kind of washes away any kind of statement that I make, right? He's just got TDS. Don't pay attention to anything he says about Trump. Instead of dealing with the actual issues, which people don't. The Trump is our savior, Trump zealots who will die for Trump, and that might happen ultimately. And all these zealots who will vote for him no matter what, and no matter what he does, it doesn't matter. You have Trump mindlessness syndrome, or Trump brainwash syndrome. Trump can do no wrong. The reality here is everything they've accused him in the documents case, everything they've accused him in this case, everything they accused him in the payoff case, all are true. Again, you might think, challenge one thing that they have said he did that he didn't. Give me an indication of what he didn't do. Did he not switch off the cameras so that the cameras wouldn't capture them moving the documents around, right? As one of the people who works for him said. Did he not hide boxes from FBI? Did he not do these things? Did he not pay off, what's her name, Stormy Daniels or something? Did he not pay her off to keep her silent during a campaign because he didn't want the embarrassment around the campaign. Is that just not true? Now, I know you'll say, oh, but Hillary, oh, but Hunter Biden, oh, but this, oh, but that. So we shouldn't prosecute people who are actually guilty because, oh, somebody else, oh, that person. God. And did he not? Here's the accusations. He pushed officials in certain states to ignore the popular vote, disenfranchising millions of voters, dismiss the legitimate electors, and ultimately cause voting by illegitimate electors in favor of defendant. Did he not do this? We know he did this. We actually know he did this. Organized fraudulent slates of electors in 7 targeted states. Again, we know he did this. Attempted to use the power and authority of the Justice Department to conduct sham election crime investigations. We know he did this. Bill Barr, who was, head of justice at the time, Attorney General, will testify that he did this. Attempted to enlist the vice president to use his ceremonial role in January 6th certification proceeding to fraudulently alter the election results. We know because the vice president will testify that this actually happened. I mean, and I think, and then forget that. And then the only question, and this is going to be the challenge the prosecutors will face because this is going to be hard. The only challenge will be, can they prove that he knew the election was fine and he did this in spite of that? That's the challenge, right? That's the challenge. It's not going to be whether any of these things are true or false. They're all true. But the question is, did he knowingly do it in spite of the fact that he knew he lost? I don't think he ever thought he won. And indeed, there are plenty of statements out there, and again, the prosecution will have to prove this, and I think they will, that he knew. And he did this in spite of the fact that he thought he won. He lost, sorry. The thought he lost. Now, it's not going to be easy, because you have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Donald Trump believed that these voter fraud allegations were false. And there's some evidence of that, but whether it's unequivocal, hard to tell. Hard to tell. I spent a lot of time on Trump. People are accusing me. I spent a lot of time on Trump because I think Trump is the primary danger to the future of this country. And I think I've been proven right. So I've said this over and over again over the last couple of years. I am going to spend a lot of time on Trump until the election to reveal everything that I can and to try to convince you at least not to vote for him, certainly in the primary and in the general election as well. So yes, I believe that Trump is the largest threat today to this republic. I think Donald Trump is a bigger threat to the United States than Joe Biden is. I've always thought that. I think Donald Trump what he's done has already proved me right. Because what Donald Trump has done, which I warned you in 2015 and 2016 and throughout his presidency, he has basically destroyed the only opposition party to the Democrats. He's destroyed it. There is no more an opposition party to the Democrats. And that is unbelievably dangerous. He's also, by the way, elevated the admiration and respect and love and so on for authoritarianism among you, the voters, some of you, not all of you, some of you. And he has elevated among the voters and among certain members of Congress are now openly steering towards authoritarianism in a way that no other Republican candidate or Democratic candidate has ever done before. So, you want to still support Trump? You want to call me TDS? Fine, but I have given you reasons, explanations. I have spent hours explaining this to you since 2015. Again, Trump mindlessness syndrome, Trump brainwashing syndrome. There's a number of ways we can spin this, but you want to ignore everything that I've said and just come up with, and the reason, by the way, I can't reach 50,000 subscribers, absolutely, because the country's not ready for somebody to tell them the truth. You are not ready for me to tell you the truth. I can't get to 50,000 because people who love Trump, who are mindlessly following Trump, will not join this channel. And the fact that I have been explaining to people in great detail why Trump is bad for this country, leads to the fact that I can't reach large numbers on Twitter. And you can blame me for that, but I have integrity. I actually say it like it is, whether I lose subscribers or not, as many of you know. And you want dishonest commentators, that's fine. You want people to just suck up to what will lead to more subscribers. That's fine. That's fine. Right? But don't expect me to play that game. I will not. I will not. I will tell you exactly what I think. And you want to call it Trump derangement syndrome? That says a lot about you. That says a lot about you. Anybody who uses the Trump derangement syndrome, that means you can't think for yourself. You can't, you're not presenting an argument. I mean, again, I've been consistent since 2015. I haven't changed my mind because there's no reason to change my mind. I haven't changed my mind because the facts constantly, over and over again, bolster my case. They just make my case stronger. You want to ignore facts? You want to ignore reality? You want to destroy this country? Because that's what I think Trump supporters are doing right now. The fact that we have a primary with some really decent candidates among Republicans who can't get more than 3% of the vote because Trump dominates tells you all you need to know about how horrific Trump is and how he's completely destroyed this political party. So it's sad and horrific to see. Thank you for those of you who stick with me in spite of me, attacking this. I really don't understand Trump's appeal. I really don't. I mean, he is such a scummy, just horrible person, and of course, but I guess this is the generation of Andrew Tate. This is the Andrew Tate generation. If you think Andrew Tate is great, as so many people do, then Donald Trump is just Andrew Tate in politics. All right. And by the way, I despise Biden. I despise his family. I despise all of them. I just don't think Biden is a threat to my values as much as Trump is. He's still a threat to my values, but just not as much as Trump is. Because I always think that evil on the people who claim to be pro-founders and pro-capitalism is worse than evil on the side of people who've given up on the founders and given up on capitalism decades ago. Yep. All right. Here's a good one. This is a good example of Democrats and Republicans again working together to bankrupt this country and destroy what it stands for. So, Congress is going to come back from recess, and it will have a very short period of time to quickly pass a farm bill. A farm bill that is $1.5 trillion over 10 years. That's right, $1.5 trillion over 10 years. Of course, the number could be a lot larger than that because the farm bill doesn't actually cap the amount of money they can spend. It's variable. This is just an estimate of what they think it'll cost over 10 years. And what happens with the Farm Bill, and the reason it's so much money, is, so the Farm Bill was, let's just do a little bit of history. The Farm Bill was first passed in 1933 as part of the the New Deal, right? This is the Democrat New Deal stuff, and they passed it to subsidize, support financially strapped farmers during the Great Depression. And remember, in those days, a lot of Americans were farmers. So this is kind of politically a subsidy that made a lot of sense back then, even though it was wrong and evil to even do it back then. But they did it in the idea of subsidizing lots of farmers. This is the way politicians bribe us to vote for them. By 1973, there were not that many people farming. About 1% of the American population were actually farmers. And that means farm subsidies were not that big of a deal politically, and it wasn't that, you didn't need who are you bribing anymore. So Bob Dole, the Republican Bob Dole, realizing this, said, how do we keep this farm subsidy thing going, recognizing the fact that there's just not a lot of farmers and not a lot of people, as a consequence, care. And what he did is he teamed up with George McGovern, who was a senator from South Dakota, Democrat, of course, bipartisan. Bob Dole and George McGovern got together. And what they did is they took another program, the food stamp program, that I think also dates back to the Great Depression, and they combined it with the farm subsidies to create a new farm bill. And the farm bill combined the two. And of course, everybody loves food stamps. It's the most popular of the welfare programs out there. And they combined it with the farm bill. So now you have subsidies, and you have this, and you have different pressure groups. Do you want your food subsidies? You want your food stamps? Okay, but then you have to give me my farm subsidies, say all the senators from farm states. So what you have now is a bipartisan, rural and urban, farm nutrition coalition that supports these farm bills every time they're up, increases them, puts more money out there, spending. And of course, today, if you look at the farmers who get the subsidies, it's basically big farms, The 10% of farms by crop production get 60% of the farm bill payments. So the subsidies go to a few rich farmers, but they keep coming because nobody will challenge them, because on the other side, they're giving it away in food stamps. Nobody challenges this. This passes with big majorities of both Democrats and Republicans. This is the real horror when Democrats and Republicans get together to pass bills. They'll take your money, and just waste them. Just waste them out there. All right. So you'll hear a lot about the Farm Bill. You'll hear basically that it's being negotiated, that they're fighting with one another, and then they'll somehow come to an agreement, and everybody will be happy. And gazillions of your money will be spent out there by your politicians who supposedly represent you. All right. Let's see, where were we? Farm Bill. Oh, yeah, quickly on Miami. I found this surprising. But Miami is losing population. Miami is actually, shrinking. People are going to Orlando, they're going to Tampa Bay, they're going to Jacksonville, they're going to Cape Coral, they're going to Sarasota, but they're leaving Miami. They're actually leaving. And they're leaving Miami because it's expensive. It's one of the fastest, since COVID, it has really shrunk. Not quite like San Francisco, obviously, but still. And the main reason is home prices. There's lots of construction in Miami, but almost all of it is business related. And what happens is the construction that is being constructed is high income. And what happens is you're converting, you middle class and lower middle class are leaving, and the people entering leaving are, they can't afford to live there anymore. So you're getting a very bifurcated South Florida where the middle class and the poor or low middle class are living outside of the Miami area. They go into the Miami area to work. This is why you get such traffic jams over there. But it is interesting. I thought Miami was growing. I thought it was booming. It's booming in one sense and shrinking in another. The fastest growing counties are places like Travis County in Texas. That's where Austin is. And Mariposa County in Arizona, which is Phoenix and Scottsdale. Travis County in Texas never shrunk. It just went. Phoenix shrunk a little bit during COVID, but then has accelerated since then, is way above that. So I just found that interesting. Demographics are kind of interesting, so we'll keep on that. All right, wow, we're way behind. Okay, Niger, quickly on Niger. Niger is a country in kind of north-central Africa, not north. It's kind of at the southern end of the Sahara Desert. So it's beneath Algeria. It's next to Mali next to Mali, right? It's a deserty country, and as you probably have heard, because it's in the news a lot for whatever reason, but it's in the news a lot. There's been a coup there. The military has gotten rid of the democratically elected president, and they have installed a military government. And the question is, and the question is, why should anybody care? Well, why should Americans care? Well, two reasons. Let's broaden this. Why should the West care? Two reasons the West should care. One reason is that Niger is an exporter, a significant exporter, large exporter of uranium. So a lot of the nuclear power plants in the world, particularly in France, are actually use uranium that is produced in Niger, and there is a real fear that the uranium will be funneled somewhere else. Probably not to Russia, because Russia had plenty of its own uranium, but maybe somewhere else. Russia expertise is what do you call it, refining uranium or whatever you do to uranium to make it usable. So people are concerned about what are the Niger government going to do to all this uranium, particularly given that France is solidly behind the president who was deposed and has condemned this coup mightily. Of course, that doesn't mean they won't buy the uranium. They probably will continue buying it anyway. The second reason, and this is a reason it affects the United States, well, I mean, uranium could affect the United States. If we do go more into nuclear, we'll need a source of uranium. Niger's pretty good because it's not affiliated with, it's not Russia, and it's not China, so it's a good source. But the second reason is that America, shockingly enough, right, has troops in Niger. Indeed, it's been announced that the United States has suspended security cooperation with the military forces of Niger because of the coup. But the reality is that U.S. is training Nigerian soldiers. That U.S. is right there in Niger. Niger and Nigeria, two different countries. Niger has no coast, no ports. It's not on the ocean. Nigeria is on the Atlantic Ocean. So the United States has soldiers there. Why does the United States have soldiers there? Because this whole area of the south part of the Sahara Desert, the whole area of the south part of the Sahara Desert, Mali and Niger, but even going into Kenya, which is further west and south, but all the way to the Atlantic. This whole area is very, very active for the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda terrorist groups. So the Islamists are very strong in this area. This is an area where they train, where they actually dominate space. They actually have, have bases on the ground, they might have real contacts with this military. Real contacts with the military in Niger. So there's a real threat that they become more active. Already, French citizens are being evacuated from Niger. The Pentagon has said that American citizens are not yet being evacuated, and again, U.S. soldiers are not going to leave the region, even though they stopped cooperating. But this is the kind of ridiculous nature of American foreign policy. We have troops in 120 different countries fighting all kinds of little insignificant wars. We're not doing it in a way that substantially eradicates Al-Qaeda or Islamic Jihad. We're just pinpricking them and placing our soldiers and our troops in hostile areas, in areas where they are likely to get hurt, they're likely to suffer casualties, and where the political instability is massive. Just one other element to this, one other spin to the Niger story, which might be of interest. The Wagner Group, you remember the Wagner Group, Prigozhin in Russia, is very influential in Africa and including in Niger. There's some reports that it could be the night that the Wagner Group was involved in creating this coup. Again, what the Wagner Group primarily wants is access to resources, access to money, right? Access to money. We will see. We will see how this plays out. It's not clear that the Wagner Group really is, but there's fears that it might be. We will see what actually happens here. But remember, American Special Forces are on the ground here, and they might not be in Niger right now. They might be in Mali. They might be in Nigeria, they might be somewhere else, but they're in this general area. And so there are American lives at stake and at risk. And for what exactly? And why? And isn't there a better way to take out the actual Al-Qaeda and Islamic Jihad? Okay, not Islamic Jihad, ISIS, Islamic State. All right, quickly, just some good news. For the first time in many, 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 many years, a brand new nuclear reactor has been turned on. This is an entirely new nuclear reactor, first one in decades. Actually went online this week, 7 years late, $17 billion over budget, probably because of all the regulations, the environmental stuff, all of fighting it in court, all of that. This is going to provide electricity to 500,000 homes in Georgia, Florida, and Alabama. It's a Georgia-based plant, this is good. Sadly, again, the price tag doubled. This was supposed to be the beginning of a big renaissance in nuclear, but it is so expensive, I don't think they can afford to build any more unless something really changes dramatically in the United States, which allows these things, allows this all to grow more substantially. Yep. All right. So there you go. First reactor to be delivered to the grid since 2016, but first new one. I mean, new type, new reactor, new type of reactor, all of that since I think 1996. 1996. That's how pathetic America's energy policy and nuclear programs have been. All right, let's take your questions. Not many today. Maybe my Trump rant discouraged you, but as I said earlier, we got 91 people listening. If everybody does $2, we've made it. If you value what I do, including my attitude towards Trump, and some of you don't value my attitude towards Trump, but you're still here listening, so you must get some value out of what I do. Value for value, that's kind of a basic principle. Please, I encourage you to support the show and keep it going, keep these news. I mean, question is there value for news roundups? I know some of you value them, but we have to raise that $250 every day to keep the news roundups economic and to keep them worthwhile and to keep them going. So with 93 people watching live right now, again, $2 each would get us well over that. Thank you, Stephen. Stephen just stepped in with $5, and a bunch of you did before. Stephen Harper did, Michael Dell with $20. Thank you, Michael. David Arsenault, and Catherine, Gail, and Nick, and of course, Jonathan started us all off. So, yeah, I mean, if you guys continue like this, Darlene, thank you. Louis, thank you. If you guys just do this, $5, $2 and stuff, we will reach the goal. It's just a matter of numbers at this point. All right. Dawn asks a Trump question. How do you deal with people who are in complete denial about what Trump did and his looming indictment? Look, how do I deal with people? I guess I don't. In my life and the people who surround me, I don't have many people like that, or really, I give them the facts, I provide the evidence, and that's it. I mean, there's nothing to deal with them. It's at the end of the day, they'll do what they decide to do. They'll evaluate the evidence that they have, and they'll make a decision about whether to support Trump or not to support Trump. It's outside of my control. I provide the evidence, I provide the arguments, I provide the facts, and accept it or not accept it. And if it's your family, then just ignore them. I mean, what's the point of what's the point of actually engaging with them? Unless you think you can change somebody's mind. It's worth trying, because particularly in, particularly if in a primary season, it's really, really important to try to convince people. Because after the primaries, they'll say, well, it's Trump versus Biden. What choice do we have? We have to vote for Trump. But right now, there is a choice. They actually have a choice about who they're going to vote for. There's a primary. There's other Republicans. It's not Biden versus Trump. There are other people there. I mean, DeSantis, I think, is ridiculous. But you've got some really good candidates out there. So why not try to argue that people should vote for those other candidates? So, I mean, DeSantis is irrelevant because DeSantis cannot win. He's playing. DeSantis is taking all of Trump's issues, and he's not as good at it. So he can't win. The only way to beat Trump is to be different from Trump. I mean, I don't think you can win then either, right? That's a problem. But that's the only way, to be exactly like Trump, but just on the issues. But not be Trump. There's no way DeSantis is winning this. I think this is Trump's to lose, and even if he goes to jail, I think by then DeSantis will have dropped out of the race. I just don't think DeSantis can last. He won't win Iowa, he won't win New Hampshire, and he won't win South Carolina. He won't win the 3 first primaries, and therefore he's finished. All right. Yeah, I mean, Joe, $85. Thank you, Joe. And Joe's basically brought us to almost to Dan, thank you. Let's see, who do we have here? Thank you, PB. Thank you, P. Eddie. Thank you, John Parker. Thank you, Frederick. And thank you, Wes. Together, you guys have brought us within $15 of the target, so really, really appreciate that. Joe says, thanks for speaking the truth about Trump and everything else. My pleasure, and don't worry, I will keep doing it. Michael says, why did Fox feel the need to do these articles on Ayn Rand? Is she growing? What happened was, basically what happened was the vice president of Fox, who was responsible for all their online programming, basically saw a tweet of mine that he liked, and then looked me up and saw that Ayn Rand Institute, and he remembers liking Ayn Rand and admiring Ayn Rand, and he reached out, and we had a conversation that went well, and he basically said, look, I want to do some stories on Ayn Rand, and he hooked me up with this reporter, and the reporter wrote the 3 articles you see. They're getting, I think over 1,500, and one of them got well over 2,000 comments. So a lot of people are seeing them. A lot of people are viewing them. I hope more people do, and I hope you guys help. Please go to Fox, find these articles about Ayn Rand, share them, tweet them, Facebook them, do whatever you can to increase, because that is the only way we will get more, more coverage of Ayn Rand. And so that's why. Now, whether this will be the beginning of something, because they're not they've done the 3 that they said they would do. Now, I am hoping this will be the beginning of more stuff on Fox and at Fox, but we'll see. I don't think it's because she is growing. I think it's because it hit something with, with the people there. All right. Silvano says, keep firing away at Trump. It only increases the size of the comeuppance. Thank you, Silvanos. I appreciate that, and don't worry, I will keep it. Roland says, how many Trump supporters does it take to change a light bulb? Never mind. They're still busy trying to change the election results from 3 years ago. All right. PB says, thanks. Logan says, would love to see you and Michael Malice together soon. Maybe. Who knows? All right. We're $15 short. I've run out of questions. If somebody wants to just dip in $15 to get us to the target, that would be fantastic. Let me just say 2 things, because I'm seeing some weird comments on the commenting. One, why did I pay? What am I going to say about Biden that you don't know? Yes, yesterday I did a whole thing on Hunter Biden and about the Biden's corruption and the phone and Hunter Biden's art deals and selling art and all this stuff. Fine. So I do that. I talked about, how many times have I talked about the CHIP Act? How many times have I talked about the Inflation Reduction Act? I know you don't care about this stuff. This stuff you don't care about economic liberty. You don't care about personal liberty. You care about, I've even talked about, trans and all this other stuff. But the reality is you have a million sources for anti-Biden content. You go to any right-wing thing from Fox to the nut jobs on the right, you can find a million things that are anti-Biden. I try to attack Biden on things that are really substantive and important and fundamental, which I don't think the others do. I think they deal with the minutia. But I do it all the time. You don't listen to it because you're not interested in it, because you've got other sources on Biden. The fact is, very few people on the individualist side, very few people associated, in quotes, with the right, in quotes, attack Trump. That's my job. I attack the right. I constantly attack the right. I'll be attacking the right even more in the future. I'll attack the new right. I'll attack the conservative nationalists. I'll attack the integralists. I'll attack everybody on the right who I think is horrible. Because the reality is nobody on the right will do it. So I have no problem when the mainstream media is right to make mainstream media points. When the mainstream media is wrong, I'll attack the mainstream media. Sometimes the mainstream media is right. The reality is that mainstream media produces all the news that we have. Most of what you get on right-wing media is not the discovery of news. Most of what you get in the right-wing media is commentary and the made-up news, just like you get on the far left. So, yeah, I mean, I've told you this for months and months and months. My interest is in shoring up a better political environment, a better political alternative. And to do that, enemy number one are people who are associated with us, people who people confuse with us. And that means enemy number one for me is the American right. Even though I know the left's destroying everything, I can see it, and I talk about it. But you can get that from lots of places. But the reality is you're not going to get kind of the comparison I did the other day between the free cons and the National Conservatives. You'll get it, but you won't get it the way I do it. You won't get it as sharp as I will, because people don't want to. They don't want to offend the free cons. They don't. I mean, I was a little too nice, I think, to them. They don't want to offend one side and not offend. They're playing political games. I don't play political games. I tell it exactly like it is. I will go after Trump because, as I said, I think Trump is enemy number one. Biden, enemy number two, maybe. But Trump is enemy number one, so I'll go after Trump. And I'll go after DeSantis when that is required, when I think he's a threat. And I'll go after any Republican candidate and any Democratic candidate. I've gone after RFK. I've spent a lot of time going after RFK. He's not a Republican. He's a Democrat. It's interesting that he gets a lot of support from Republicans, because if you're a conspiracy theory nut, Republicans will gravitate towards you. All right. Adam says, thanks, guys. We made the target and more, so I appreciate that. You said that there are good Republican candidates in the coming primary. Who are they? Do they meet Ayn Rand's criteria? No, they don't meet Ayn Rand's criteria, but the criteria have to change over time. So every Republican candidate out there is anti-abortion. Every single one of them. You cannot win a Republican primary if you're going to be in any way pro-abortion. That's just a reality. We're going to have to accept that reality. And you're constantly going to have to make choices between the lesser of evils. And if abortion is a litmus test, then there is no Republican candidate. And for many decades into the future, you won't be able to find one. But I don't think you can make it in modern America, in America of today, because Ayn Rand was right. Because she wouldn't vote for Reagan, because he brought the religious right into the Republican Party, because Reagan made abortion the issue that it is today. That's on Reagan. Once Reagan was elected, once the religious right became anchored in the Republican Party, you can't win unless you want to put some limits on abortion. And then the question is, who is less nutty about it? And then what about all the other issues? And I've said from the beginning, I think Nikki Haley and I think Tim Scott from South Carolina. I think those are the two best Republicans, right? I mean, Christie is probably, I think Christie is the best in the sense that he is willing to attack Trump. And good for him for doing that. Somebody needs to have the guts, the balls, the courage to actually criticize Trump. But I think the best two candidates in the Republican field, the candidates who could beat Biden easily, candidates who, I mean, one is a woman, one is black. I mean, you've got to believe that on the Republican, imagine if the first woman president is a Republican. I think Nikki Haley's a minority. She is somewhat immigrant parents. She is a woman, and she's the only candidate out there, literally the only candidate out there that is willing to talk about capitalism, right? We read DeSantis' economic plan. No mention of capitalism. No mention of free markets. Nothing. Just pathetic platitudes. So, for now, I'm still supporting Nikki Haley in spite of abortion and a bunch of other things where she's terrible. But the reality is that you can't win in this Republican Party. And look, there is a real possibility the Republicans are going to get wiped out in 2024 because of the abortion issue. They certainly suffered dramatically because of abortion in the congressional races in 2022. I mean, because of two things they suffered in 2022: Trump and abortion. And in 2024, they're going to have Trump and abortion. So they're going to keep on. I mean, Republicans are committed to making themselves a marginalized minority party. And that's sad. That's not what I want. That's why I keep attacking Trump. Steve says, I think you're being too soft on Trump. Please turn it up. Thanks, Steve. I appreciate that. Okay, Frank says, in scene in a Fountainhead movie, Wynand touches his face and says he's very desperately in love with his wife. Is he scared that she doesn't love him? Was this the point where Dominique is his wife? Then yeah, I don't think she really loves him. No, I don't think he marries Dominique. So I can't. Wynand. Wait a minute. Wynand is in Atlas Shrugged. What are we talking about, Frank? Atlas Shrugged, you mean? Whatever. I don't remember who Wynand is married to, and I'm confusing the books, so I apologize. You're confusing the book, and I'm confusing the books, and I just don't remember. So I'm not a scholar of the novels line by line. I don't remember enough of the details. I probably should read them again soon if you're going to ask me a lot of questions about it. Okay, tonight we're talking about private equity. I know it doesn't interest you guys because it's not anti-woke, but we're talking about private equity and whether it's valuable or not valuable economically. I also do some of the reviews you guys have asked for. You meant Wyatt is up. Oh, so you mean Gail Wynand. So I don't remember why he says that. I don't remember where he says that. I'm completely losing it. So I apologize. Obviously, I am. Wow, my mind is gone. This is what the pro-Trump people do to me. They they get me distracted, and I miss out on the very basics. So I don't know why Wynand says that in the Fountainhead. I got it right the first time, but I can't remember exactly. Yeah, I mean, he's talking about Dominique, and he knows Dominique loves Rourke, right? She never loves Wynand, and she never loves the guy she marries. She's doing it in some ways to spite Reardon. So he knows that, and so yes, you're absolutely right. Yes, I was confusing Wynand with Wyatt and two W's, and I'm getting old. What can I say? All right. Thank you, guys. Tonight's private equity, on Thursday's immigration, another topic that I'm sure some of you will have disagreements with me. And tomorrow's another news roundup where we will continue to talk about probably Trump and why he's bad, or somebody else. We'll see. We'll see what comes up tomorrow. Bye, everybody. Thanks to those super chatters. We made the target and more really, really.